Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 1790. The topic is training and the title is Hamstring Machines, which is best for growth. Ooh. One of my clients is a bodybuilder and he likes simple workouts, prefers not to use a high variety of movements. He doesn't want crazy weird things. He wants to just focus on mind-muscle connection without worrying about like a lot of balance issues or mechanical issues or coordinational issues. So he likes very simple stuff. One of the current workout structures we're using for his hamstrings is we do calves at the beginning of the workout because he really wants to prioritize calves. We alternate between seated or standing calf machines. Then he goes to a hamstring machine. We alternate between seated hamstring curls and lying hamstring curls. Then we go to a free weight movement, and we alternate between barbell stiff leg deadlifts from the ground versus barbell Romanian deadlifts from a rack. Now, his gym actually has monolift attachments that can be taken in and out like regular J-cups. So he just puts them lower, and that allows him to lift the bar up, not have to take any steps. The attachments actually pop out of the way. He does the movement and then he just leans forward to catch the weight in the J-cups, which is awesome. That allows us to really maximize the weight load of that movement, and he's absolutely loving that. That's his favorite movement right now. Then we go to unilateral work and we alternate between dumbbell split stance RDLs and dumbbell single leg RDL with the other knee, like the other leg, the knee is on a bench, and that just helps kind of like ground you and balance you. But that's our routine. We do calves, then a hamstring machine, then a free weight hamstring exercise, then a unilateral type hamstring exercise. He loves it. Best workouts he said he's had in his life. He said in forever, so that is his life. But loves it, loves it, loves it. And then how we create variety is we change up sets, reps, intensity techniques. We use different tempo pacings. Just a bunch of fun odds and ends. Now, recently, he asked me, he said, why don't we ever use the kneeling hamstring curl machine that my gym has? And he sent me a picture, and it's a hammer strength kneeling hamstring curl. And I told him, I said, it's just not great for growth. The reason why is because when you're in a loaded but stretched position, it has a minimal weight load. So for this to make sense, let's think of bicep curls. At the bottom of a bicep curl, I don't want to just let my arm completely relax. I'm going to keep my elbow slightly bent so my bicep has to hold the weight in that bottom position. That's the stretched, loaded position of the bicep. Then as I would curl up, the muscle is shortening due to contractions, and I get to a full contraction. In a bicep curl, we're weakest at that stretched position where it's still loaded. So again, I'm not just relaxing my arm into a full stretch. I have the longest range of motion, the most open my muscles can be while still being physically loaded with the weight. That stretched position, but loaded stretched position, is weakest. As I would start to curl up, as the muscle shortens, it actually gets a little stronger. So if you think of doing bottom partials versus top partials, you can do more or heavier weight for top partial bicep curls than you could do for bottom partial bicep curls. And that's pretty true for all muscles, is they're the weakest in the loaded stretched position, and they get stronger as they shorten, as they contract. When we accrue the most muscle damage during these kind of movements, during loaded movements, is when our muscle is extending under weight load. So that's the eccentric portion, not the contraction when our muscle's getting shorter. So that's the contraction, that's the concentric portion. The eccentric, the extending under weight load portion, is the most damaging, and it's the most damaging when you're fully stretched. So the loaded, fully stretched position is actually the most beneficial position for muscle growth. So ideally, we would want movements that maximize the weight load we can use in that loaded, stretched position. The kneeling hamstring curl does the complete freaking opposite. Complete opposite. So, for example, the seated hamstring curl machine he has, he loves this machine. It's actually a damn good machine. It's a Cybex one. Very, very, very good. But it has its maximal weight load, maximal challenge when stretched, when in the stretched position. Then as he starts to pull his feet underneath him, it's still really damn hard. He used to do pauses at the bottom because he believed that helped him feel his muscle better. The downside is if he pauses in the bottom, he has to actually use less weight, and therefore the stretched loaded position is actually submaximal. So in order for him to have a contraction at the bottom and isometric hold at the bottom and actually stop the machine, he has to undermax, like submaximal load, the stretched position. That's not ideal for growth. So I had him get rid of doing that, like stop doing that. I want him to get like a full contraction, but there's no way in hell he's going to hold that at the bottom. I want him to get a full contraction. I want him to control it on the way up, but we're sure as hell not coming to an isometric hold, because that would mean that he has to submaximally load the stretch position, which is the most beneficial position. Now, the lying hamstring curl machine he has, I think, is a piece of crap, but unfortunately, we don't get to tell gyms what they have in them. But that machine has a huge tensional load drop-off towards the contraction. It's really freaking hard at the maximal loaded stretch position, but then as he starts to come up, it almost gets too damn easy. So we use variations of partials, isometric contractions, pause decentrics. We do weird stuff that makes the top range of the motion harder, but still then allows us to have that maximal loaded tension in that stretched position. So the seated hamstring curl machine, the lying hamstring curl machine, maximally load the stretched position when we're still under load. So the fully stretched, about to release the weight into the joint, but still contraction, still holding it, that full stretched position but still loaded, we want that maximally loaded. The kneeling leg curl is crap. There's minimal tension at the bottom because of the way the machine is designed. It just pivots on this like little lever arm, and at the bottom there's no gravitational force because the damn lever arm is pretty much straight up and down, and then as you curl to the top, the lever arm is horizontal with the ground, which means it's maximal weight load force. So it feels almost like 0 pounds at the bottom, and then it feels like a lot of whatever weight you put on at the very top. So the loaded stretched position is minimized extremely. Then the contraction position is extremely maximized. The kneeling leg curl machine does the complete opposite of what we would want it to do for maximal growth. It subloads, underloads the stretched position, and it overloads the contracted position. So therefore, we don't use it. So this is a fun little question. I thought it would make a fun podcast. Is the best machine for hamstring growth, the best machine for pretty much any muscle you want to grow, would be a machine that allows you to be maximally loaded in the stretched position, and then as you would contract the muscle, it still feels challenging and you can get a full contraction. But you don't have to subload or underload that stretched position in order to get a full contraction. That can be kind of conceptual, so you might have to work through that. But in the next leg workout, if you have the options of various leg machines, like different hamstring machines, try them. Or if you have a chest fly machine, maybe you have 2 or 3 machines, chest fly machines you can choose from. Bicep curl machines, tricep machines, overhead presses, whatever kind of machines you have available in your gym, pay attention to, does it allow me to maximally challenge the muscle when I'm in the stretched position, but still have some challenge to it in the contracted position as well. You want to choose, if your goal is muscle growth, the machines that allow you maximal weight load in the stretched position. Okay. Thought that was fun. Great question. Love that stuff. If you have any weird, fun questions like that you ever want to send into the podcast, please do. Our email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. Okay. If you have any questions, let me know. You can also email me as well. If you like the podcast, please share the podcast. If you like the podcast, please consider donating to support the podcast, which you can do on our website. And if you like the information we share in the podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us and follow us on Instagram and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.